This feels so weird. Hopefully you can see the pock marking that still is in the surface around the edge. Hopefully that will go when I sand, which is right now. I'm going to use a block for the middle of the guitar, but around the edges I have to be careful because the surface is scooped slightly, and if I use a block near the edge of the guitar is effectively standing proud and I will take all the shellac off it, so I'm going to just use my fingers around the outside and hopefully that will remove the pock marking. We'll see. I've pre-wetted the sandpaper. This is another area I'm wary of with the crack. I'm not sure whether it's... I can still feel it slightly, so I'm just going to be careful around that crack because I don't want to take all the shellac off and go down to the bare wood. And that's good news because the pock marking is pretty much gone. There's just a few little remaining. Particularly there though. Actually the sanding is bringing out where they are because of course it's filling in the holes with dust. That's fairly smooth. There's still a little bit of grain visible and a few little pock marks, and it's particularly highlighting the dents around the edge, but I think that's okay. I think that's ready. While I've got the sandpaper out, I'm just going to take there's just a few little bits of just a very slight roughness here where there's a few little bits of lint, so I'm just going to take that out, and I think there's a couple of bits here as well. So very light sanding on this. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the front in this session. I can with the neck vise, I think, but it might be best to leave this for a separate session. Yeah, that's all it needed. As I do more. I think while I'm here I might as well just go over the whole guitar, just very, very lightly. I may have to accept that I'm never going to get this completely smooth down this end because there's still quite a lot of scarring from years of abuse and probably a bit of damp. But it's certainly looking pretty good, just not perfect. I should perhaps mention this is 1500 grit. I've been using this all along for rubbing down the shellac. I find a lot of the time that fingers are the better guide for whether it's smooth rather than using your eyes. It's you can feel instantly whether there's imperfections in the surface. I have to be very careful with the edges here because it's very easy to take all of the shellac off around the edges. And actually it doesn't really need that much sanding. Don't think I'm going to sand in there, or am I? Oh, I might just finger sand, just very, very light. The finish on the headstock is remarkably good, actually. It's been perhaps easier than I thought it was. I hesitate to say that. Finishing the headstock off with a oil polish might be, when I say oil polish, I mean when lubricating the shellac on, it might not be so easy. Now, if there's an objective to this session, it's to get a nice smooth coat with no sticking. I've had a little bit of sticking on the previous sessions. So what I'm going to try differently this time is I'm going to take some oil and I'm going to apply it to the guitar. Quite a few drops. That's probably enough, actually. And then I'm just going to spread the oil over the surface and get a good layer. It's quite sticky, actually. This is this is olive oil, and that's quite a thick, greasy coat. I've not done this before. I've usually applied the oil to the pad, but let's try that. One pad. I've freshened it up with a little bit of alcohol, and now it's just leaving a faint trace on the paper. I have my 2-pound cut of shellac from the previous session, and as always I can't get the top off the jar. Cut! I now have the top off the jar. A few drops. That's about 25, I think. Keep the top on the shellac to avoid evaporation. And about the same number of drops of alcohol. Let's see how we go. Immediate thing I notice is it's very difficult with the oil already on the guitar to perceive any form of vapor trail, to have any idea of how much shellac is actually going on. All I'm getting is smear marks in the oil. But it is very smooth and there is certainly no sticking. Don't like the fact that I've still got actual white marks from the sanding. I think for the next charge of the pad I'll go straight to that point. Hopefully you can see that. There's a white mark there. In fact, there are white marks all the way along this edge. but in fact actually they disappear as soon as you go over them. I think it's just that this one's particularly deep. Position the light and the camera for the best for the best view. I think I actually am having trouble seeing this because I'm looking from the opposite direction to the camera, so I've got the light, I've got no source of light opposite me, so I can't actually see any detail in the surface. I think I'm going to recharge already. Right, I'm going to go straight on here and see what happens. Yeah, I think it's disappearing. This isn't as smooth. That initial application was grabbing a little bit. So it might be that the shellac I just applied hadn't dried. It's a little bit sticky maybe. Just leaning into these little areas where I can still see white sanding dust, and as I sort of apply pressure over the top of them, they immediately disappear, which is good news. Always keeping the pad moving. I think for the next layer I am actually going to put a drop of oil on the pad. But it does feel silky smooth, this. It's just that for me the light isn't very good. Actually, if I get my head down low, down here, I can actually see a little bit better. I think I'm getting less of a... Well, I am getting a vapour trail, but I'm getting more of a sort of smearing action, I think, because of the large amount of oil. Well, it's not a large amount of oil, but there is more oil than I've been using in previous sessions. But I think I'm much happier with that than just using a drop of oil on the pad. I'm really pressing quite firmly here, just burnishing what I've done. And I think rather than go straight in with another session, I will just wait maybe 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, just to make sure that it's dry before continuing. Store the pad in a jar with a little bit of alcohol. this feels silky smooth. So we're going to go again. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the pad this time, but I'm not going to apply any more oil to the surface. I think I applied plenty. Now what I'm going to do differently this time, so I'm going to apply a couple of drops of oil. That was 3 drops. I'm just going to make sure that the oil is well distributed around the pad. Not convinced that is actually. I was just wondering whether the problems I was getting with sticking in previous sessions was because I was just putting a single drop of oil in the middle of the pad, and so really speaking the outsides of the pad are not being lubricated, although we've now got a nice film of oil over the surface of the guitar, so hopefully this will be fine. But let's see what happens. Yep, that feels really good. Same scheme with the sides. Plenty of oil. I haven't tightened the guitar. That's better. Here's a good smearing of oil. I keep getting my pipettes mixed up. I have a feeling I might have ended up with oil in the shellac, but don't know, we'll keep going. I did actually mark the pipette for the oil as oil, but I think I picked up the shellac pipette a short while ago, but we'll see. I can't see any oil in the shellac, but I kind of think I got them mixed up. And here we go. Where do I start? It's difficult to keep the pad moving with I've just got a very narrow side. I want to apply it like that, but it doesn't feel right going on. As for getting in near the neck, actually that's not too bad, I think. Certainly not as easy as doing the back, doing the sides. I've still got some little white marks from the sanding. Oops. And that's stuck a little bit, but I don't think it's... I think it was just me that I wasn't pushing that, so I think that's okay. It certainly looks very shiny. Right, flip the guitar over and we'll do the other side. This feels so weird. Right, flip it. I'm going to give you a better view of this, see if I can give you a lower angle view. So we'll flip it over and do the other side. It's not good to press there and pull on. You've really got to be moving as you apply the pad, otherwise you do get a little stick. A little stick? It sticks a little bit. That's actually rather oily. I think that's a lot of oil for such a small surface. Oh dear. A little bit underneath. Actually, I did wonder whether I should have taken the masking tape off, but this probably isn't the final session. I think for the final session of polishing the headstock, I will take the masking tape off and it'll just blend it into the neck. I don't know whether I don't think I'm going to be applying any French polish to the neck, but we'll see. Let's see how this goes. This could be a bit awkward. Oops, I lost my point. Yeah, I think there's no point in trying to do swirling motions with this. You just swipe it, which means it has a habit of sticking a little bit but down this end, but I think that's not too bad. It's a slightly crude way of doing it, but it seems to be effective. It's noticeable actually, the inside of the slots isn't finished to the same high standard as the rest of the guitar. So clearly 120 years ago when this was made, the makers are having the same sort of problems getting into the slots as I am. I do wonder if I could have done a better job, but oh well. It just needed a little bit of extra sanding actually, I think. It's the surface of the wood isn't as smooth as it could be inside those slots. Although they didn't have routers in those days. Not machine routers. First a drop of oil. I'm just applying enough to give a coating. I think I was applying a bit too much at times earlier. I'm going to go with the rubber for the first few coats, or the first coat at least. Oh, I didn't intend to apply that much, but it seems to have soaked in. That was about 16 drops, was it? Or maybe slightly less. Why am I whispering? I don't know. Right, wish me luck. I'm getting that scraping sound again, but not quite sure why. I don't know whether it's whether I've managed to roughen the surface up by not being quick enough with the rubber. Or being too quick. Somebody in the comments suggested that maybe I was being a little bit too quick and the shellac was still wet when I came back over it again. I'm not sure about that. I don't think the shellac dries that quick anyway, but it seems fairly smooth. But I'm just getting that swishing noise that would tend to indicate a slightly rough surface. Maybe it's where I've sanded. I don't know whether you can see, but I've definitely got a slightly rough area here. I'm just gonna. I've definitely not got a smooth surface. I hesitate to say I've roughed the surface up, but I think the pad was dragging too much in those areas. So I'm going to switch back to the traditional pad that I was using previously, and I'm going to go again and hopefully fix these areas. Can see one area in particular which looks almost like it's scuffed up. Yeah, it's slowly disappearing, but very slowly. Compared to this, the coat on the back went on really smoothly. I don't know why the front should behave differently, or whether it was just the fact I was using the rubber. It is difficult to get right by the neck though with a traditional pad. Oh, no, I really don't want to do. Got to keep the pad moving. That's almost disappeared though now, so that's good. Although, if you can hear, it still sounds rough around here. This sounds nice and smooth. This area sounds rough. That feels a lot smoother now actually. Although it's still a bit noisy here. I've decided that there's a very simple fix when the pad's tracking, and that's just drop a little bit of oil on and work it in. Although to be honest, from the sound of it, that didn't really help much, but don't want to just keep putting oil on though. It's had a fair bit of oil, this. I just want the pad to move smoothly and not catch. I'm getting a lot of swirl marks, so I think I will just do a quick burnish, but not go too heavy. Given the tension that the strings have, it should be able to take this. I'm just a little nervous. I think we'll let it rest for 10 minutes and then apply the final few coats. I think this will probably be the last coat of the day, so let's go. Into the danger area. This is the area I struggle with, because I think it's a small area, so you're doing very small movements. Maybe I should only go into this area by doing sweeping movements. Getting the edge of the rosette is particularly tricky. And getting in here and next to the neck. This area seems easier than this area. I'm not 100% happy about this session. It feels lovely down here, but then you've got the freedom of movement that you don't have up here. It just doesn't sound right in this area. Although it's not too bad, I think. It's certainly better than it was. I think that's it, but I have a feeling that won't be the last session. I want this perfect. Part of the problem here is there's a lot of oil on the surface, and I need to get rid of that oil to have a proper assessment. And there's probably a spiriting off session or whatever it's called, with maybe just pure alcohol, but and probably oil, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm going to leave it and make an assessment later.